You're in the Business Insurance Zone with me, Steve Savant, national insurance columnist and financial color commentator. And today and all this week, we're doing our series on building your business and protecting your practice. And today we're talking about client engagement for non-FINRA agents with David F. Sterling.
When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Well, welcome everyone to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm your host, Steve Savant. We're broadcasting live to a nationwide audience of financial professionals. I don't even know if I want to say financial professionals after yesterday's show. And of course, we're broadcasting to our financial professionals from Fountain Hills, Arizona, home of America's largest fountain. Maybe I should list the whole after yesterday's show. If you didn't see it, I don't know, should I say, I'm broadcasting to a nationwide audience of financial professionals and salespeople and advisors and registered investment advisors and FINRA and non-FINRA. I mean, our population is so diverse. And today, we were talking about IDing ourselves yesterday. Now I'm saying, oh my goodness, I have a broker-dealer, a couple of them actually, and some states that are already now going after non-FINRA agents for using communication about S&P when they're talking about index.
I got to cut in. I have to cut in. I'm sorry, it had to happen. I'm going to reference, and you're just going to have to explain for the audience perhaps, your concept of passivity.
Oh, yes.
Would you? Now, what am I? I'm pissed. I'm listening to that description, and I'm reading in my mind that disclosure that every broker representative knows about. This is generalized tax and legal information. We are not rendering formal legal advice. So FINRA, here's my comment to you. If it's okay for your registered representative to step outside the boundary lines in generalized areas of discussion, don't for a minute say to the non-securities licensed professional that they don't have lines that they can't bring up and discuss because it's generalized information, common to the marketplace, common to consumers.
Well, let's just get into my specific bone-crushing item number one, which is, can I talk about the S&P 500 for an indexed annuity or an indexed universal life contract? I have to tell them how it works, the mechanics of the policy. Part of that is discussing whatever indices, I'm using the S&P as my example, and the call options and how it works. Can I talk about that? Is that verboten? I'm just talking about the mechanics of a non-FINRA product.
Now, I know what you're looking for is yes, yes, no, maybe.
Well, no, I'm with an attorney, so I know that's not going to happen.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me off the hook. Yeah. I think what it comes down to is simply this, that yes, I think the producer out there could use some guidance. From who? From us. From those who live and sleep in that realm of vagueness, of abstractness. Because now you're looking at things, that's right, that are inherent to the product. There are elements that have to be described. No different than FINRA saying to basically the seller of the variable product that they've got to go real deep into elements that involve tax implications, that involve legal implications, let's say concerning estate transfer. So I'm saying, on the other hand, there is the requirement that even the insurance regulatory bodies, and insurance regulators, I want you to be listening, because you're imposing on us that similar requirement to explain to the client elements of how this particular fixed index or index universal life product works. And yes, we are recognizing we are not making an investment recommendation. We are not analyzing the utilization of this product as it concerns the world of recommending a security. But we are obligated to discuss elements of the product which require, I would actually say mandate, that we venture into generalized areas of discussion such as the S&P, such as what a general understanding of what an option might be.
Okay, so I have the S&P Ibbotson chart in front of me. I'm showing my client the moves, the waves, the S&P's mountain chart. And when I look at this, I have to talk about sometimes the S&P's performance or whatever indice. I'm showing that to my client to show them a basic trend. I'm actually using, in my illustration, 20 and 30-year look backs on that chart. So I'm trying to figure out what can I say and not say, and is that outside the scope of my conversation?
My opinion?
Yeah.
You said, my opinion?
Right.
It's a feature of the product. It's an element of the product to have that discussion. You are not making an investment recommendation. You are discussing a crucial disclosure piece of what that contract is about, how it's designed, how it performs. I don't see that as an investment recommendation. I see that as a financial construct of the world of instruments, of metrics that define the space that that product operates within. I do not see it as saying, oh, therefore you must have a securities license to talk about it.
Well, let's go one step further. Let's say I have, and I do, I have a monster inventory of different indices. And my client says, I've noticed that there's the Hang Seng, the Euro 50 stocks, the domestic S&P, the Dow Jones, the NASDAQ. Which do you recommend? See what I'm saying? I can see that happening.
It's going. Yeah. You know, but what's intriguing about that, here is what I do at that juncture. Because if you think about it, and if you look at the various products, let's stay on that fixed index universe, you know, there's a lot of company material that's been prepared, that's been approved for consumer use. You know, if the company has produced these exhibits, I am going to pull them out. I am going to discuss them. And oh, by the way, what material am I going to use to discuss them? I am going to use those definitions that are provided in the material, which are all there in the fine print.
And remember, carriers gave us these propaganda pieces, and they knew they were giving to the vast majority of people who aren't even licensed. So I want to encourage us. We're trying to protect our practice and expand our knowledge. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this with David F. Sterling.
You're listening to the insurance industry's #1 resource for products, planning ideas, carrier information, and interviews you can use. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.
Companies in our business are always touting service, products, and underwriting. And we do that too. But here's the difference. Now enter the world of the elite producer with a value package that cuts us out of the pack. A BD that approves social media marketing of non-FINRA products and doesn't take an override. With the best competition desk in the industry, and for our loyal producers, a true group health plan. No one offers that. Brokers Alliance does. Well, welcome back to the Business Insurance Zone. I'm Steve Savant, your host, and we don't give any tax or legal advice on this show, so before moving forward with anything I said in the first half, always consult your fiduciary. And speaking about, it's David Fiduciary Sterling on our show. Let's talk about it, David.
What are you trying to do to me?
I'm trying to take the onus of everything we're talking about and shift it over to you.
I love that. That is exact. I don't, producers, you heard that out there. I just want to put that in your back pocket.
Yes.
Because we'll talk about shifting the liability where it belongs.
I love that. And speaking of anger management, during the break, I noticed that we had to give medication to David again because he's going off on it. However, I will say there are levels. I mean, when I talk to a client who is angry with their producer, sometimes they call us because, hey, I thought he said this and that. We deal with what I call client levels of pissed offness, or as I call it, my barometer, the DEFCON levels of passivity. How hot is this client? And I mean, when you don't return a call to a client that's angry, their next call may not be back to you. It may be back to an attorney. I want to learn this segment. I want to be able to shift the onus, and I love that part about using carrier pieces to explain all these different indices that are sitting on their mortality chassis. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's using what's simple, what's available, what has been approved. And if you really stop and think about it, it's not per se defined to ward off those who want to take me out. Because actually, it is using what the industry is making available for me to enhance the deliverable of my service counsel with the client. It is helping the client understand what the value is that's being received. And I'm going to use everything that's available to me that I didn't necessarily create out of thin air. And it's interesting, the more I thought about it after you kind of focused in on that, there's a lot of simple steps, I think, by and large, that have been easily overlooked or bypassed, such as using that material to go into areas that basically the industry is saying we should be going. And they're helping us define how to do it.
Well, I think, and there's some excellent pieces by some of our carriers. I'm thinking of one carrier right now that has, I probably cut my teeth on their propaganda piece and their educational piece once we got into this big time, on the indexing especially. Now, when we're moving into it, let's go back to this other part, because it's really a tough one. I'm looking at variable contracts that are underwater, variable annuities specifically. I am a non-FINRA agent. I approach the client has his level of passivity. Maybe he's nuclear already. He took losses, and the only way he can salvage it is to run an annuitization on the guaranteed rider, which he doesn't want to do. So now I offer an option, indexing, preservation of principal. I offer indexing as a possible growth issue. But I had to go through the variable contract to decide whether it was good or not. David?
Thank you for that handoff.
I appreciate that.
Shifting
the onus from the host to the guest.
Well,
yes.
Makes you look good. Makes you know, it's kind of interesting. Now I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, what would I do in that scenario? I said, here's what I would do. First, I want to stay away from going too deep into the explanation of that variable contract. What do I really want to do? I want to ask, this isn't meant to sound manipulative, but I want to ask the client, what are you not happy about? You tell me your understanding of what's going on inside that contract. You tell me what's upsetting you. You know where that is going. In other words, it's saying, client, if I understand you correctly, I'm not so sure you want to continue owning this as part of your financial life. That's a simple generalized question. So the first step I'm trying to do is get the input from the client. I am not trying to go into explain sub-account performance and all that gobbledygook. I think a lot of times you don't have to go to places we feel we need to go. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to shift it right back to you because you know that's what I'm going to do. Because I think that there are channels available, perhaps it's on a consultative basis, where there are elements of a discussion that maybe the producer feels needs to take place, but being conscious of the implications, wants to hand it off. And you know, just because I know you're licensed,
we do that.
Because
we do that now. Right.
See, that's something I wasn't aware of. And all I'm thinking about is very simply this. Steve, I might call you up and say, you know, I'm going to bring you in on a discussion. And client, I want to listen. I want you to listen to why I'm doing that. You know, there's elements of what surrounds us and how we conduct our affairs from a compliance point of view that can come off seeming very positive to the client. So I'm going to ask Steve to join this discussion on certain pieces that yes, I ought not to go to for practical reasons of compliance. I don't have a problem saying to industry doesn't allow me to go there. But for the other reasons, I'm going to get a deeper knowledgeable discussion about what may help the client understand. I see no problem with engaging you in that process.
Well, I like that. We're using our own services at Brokers Alliance for VA discussions, for VUL, and sometimes when we have to look at a mutual fund, I look at it once in a while. But to be able to always look as partnering with people who you can actually defer to. And to me, that's a big issue, and it keeps us out of all the things that we're talking about.
Exactly.
I don't want to go to litigation on this for sure. Well, listen, you can watch this show and all our week's shows at www.brokersalliance.com. That's the Buzz on the Biz. See you tomorrow.
The Biz is brought to you by Brokers Alliance, a national leader in insurance products, support services, and educational workshops. When it comes to life insurance, annuities, long-term care, disability, or group pension plans, we're the news you can use.